Welcome to Gold Shields. Join NYPD veterans Tom Smith and Dan Murphy. With over 50 years of combined experience chasing drug lords, dismantling cartels, and hunting terrorists. Now they pull back the curtain, sharing raw, unfiltered stories from the front lines and the heroes who stood beside them. No topics off limits. This is real. This is true crime. This is Gold Shields.
Hey, welcome back to Gold Shields. This is Dan Murphy, along with my partner in crime, Tom Smith. How are you today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. This is a special one and been in the works for literally a couple of years. So we're ready for this.
Yeah, we have an exceptional guest today, and I'm going to let you introduce him. But we try to bring people who had experiences that are worthy of sharing. And today's story is a member of the law enforcement community who went through something no one should ever have to go through, but is willing to talk with us and share that story. And we have so much respect for him and so much appreciation for his willingness to come on and tell this story. But it highlights just how dangerous and how crazy and unpredictable police work can be. And through God's grace, he's still with us, and we're very happy to have him. Tell us who we have today, Tom.
Yeah, you know what? Alec Iurato lived all our nightmares. Every day we would go on the street, you have that worst case scenario in the back of your head because of what our job is. And you don't want to think about it too much because you can't work like that. But it's always in the back of our head whenever things happen, whenever you go to a scene, whenever you go to a call, that worst case scenario is on your mind. And Alec lived that worst case scenario as part of the Bristol Police Department in Connecticut in 2022. And it is an absolute honor to have Alec here, a Hall of Fame inductee into National Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame, which we'll get into later. But Alec, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to have you here, my friend. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. It's really awesome to be here, to be talking to you guys. It's like we've said before, it's been about a year and a half in the making here. Just going back and forth, trying to get this all squared away, finding the right time. And you guys caught me at the right time. And, I said yes. And here we are now. So I'm excited. So thank you guys.
Outstanding. It's our pleasure and our honor to have you. Tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, Alec, about how you came to be a member of the Bristol, Connecticut Police Department.
Well, that's a funny one. So I started, I grew up in Westchester, New York. It's born and raised. Long story short, when I got out of college, started kind of looking around, trying to become a police officer. I originally interned with the U.S. Marshals in Lower Manhattan. Thought that was kind of the path that I wanted to go down, especially with my degree, kind of focusing in like government law and national security. Next thing you know, I started applying to some of the departments in New York, NYPD. I did the whole gambit in New York. And out of nowhere, I just started applying to some departments in Connecticut. I started liking some of them. I liked the size of some of them. And I was applying to a lot of the bigger departments in Connecticut, but I wanted to stay in a city, but also a reasonable size where it kind of feels like a town. So next thing you know, I ended up applying to Bristol, and it just so happened to be that they were the first ones that picked me up, and they got through the process the fastest, and I couldn't be happier. It's a department that has 124 officers. Sure, it's a city, but it also feels kind of like a small town. At the same time, it's funny. It's kind of comical, how the city works. Everyone kind of knows everyone, but at the same time, it's just big enough where you could kind of move to one side of the city and you're kind of away from the other side. So, it's a really great place, and that's kind of how that whole thing started. It's kind of weird, but I'm here now. So.
I think we've all gone through all right, first one to calls, I'm going. I think we've all kind of been at that stage in our beginning of our careers. What is Bristol like crime wise? What's the What's the high level of crime there? What's going on in Bristol? Even, back in 2022, even to now.
So back then, I would say catalytic converters. That was a major one for us. It was probably every single night, our third shift, our midnight shift. They were dealing with people running around the entire city, either stealing cars or stealing catalytic converters. Those are kind of the two big ones. The catalytic converter thefts have kind of decreased over time and with some legislation and things like that. But it's still the stolen cars. There's a lot of guns out on the streets. There's some drugs that accompany the guns. It's anything that you would see in any normal city, but it's a lot of either pass through or things that are kind of quiet where you wouldn't really notice it unless you kind of, stuck your toes in the water. But occasionally we will get our shootings. We'll get our stolen cars with shootings, our drive-bys, things like that. But, nothing like you would see in New York City or Boston or any big city like that. But, we do get that spillover.
So, well, we're talking about big cities. Boston really isn't a big city. They have a little baseball team. They try. I mean, they're nice people. I get it. I'm totally kidding. Love Boston. Totally kidding. So how long were you with department before the night of the shooting?
It's another weird one. 4 years to the day.
Really?
Yep. I was sworn in on October 12th of 2018. That was my hire date. And it's a weird thing now. October 12th rolls around and, it's a great thing for me because I think of it as, it's another year, right? Another year of doing the job and really pushing, the positive things in law enforcement. And then at the same time, I get that horrible feeling, every year on October 12th, because it's, we'll dive into it, but, it's kind of where my entire life just flipped upside down. So, it's a good day in the background, but ultimately it's the worst day of my life. So.
And you know what? I think you just, in one sentence and one statement, summed up police work.
Yep.
One day can be the best day. You get some great news, you get a new detail, you get a new partner, whatever it might be. And 30 seconds later, your entire life, both present and future, changes. And you just summed up police work. And, people out there who think it's a movie or think it's, it is what it is 10 times worse than that. And when you run into a situation like yours, it's even worse. And that's what we want to get into. That day, October 12th, 2022. Let's go back, if it's okay with you, and explain what happened that day.
Well, every time I kind of explain what happened, I kind of have to start from the beginning of the day. Kind of just sums up everything. October 12th, it was a Wednesday. What we were doing the entire week was we were running an active shooter training for our entire PD. What we ended up doing was we had a bunch of instructors that were running the training. We also had a bunch of role players. What we ended up doing was we filled a lot of those roles, just about all of them, with our SWAT team guys. So me as well. So the entire week, it was kind of just 8 to 12. We were running through that active shooter training, kind of getting people prepped for, the unthinkable. And that's exactly what we were doing on October 12th of 2022. We ran through that training from 8 to 12, and I'll never forget it because I was with some of my best friends doing that training. And when 12 o'clock rolled around, it was probably the nicest day that you could imagine in October. It was about 70 degrees, sunny, not a cloud in the sky. It was beautiful, right? It was like the perfect day. And it really was. We did a training for our people, but it was also getting us better. And, in the back of our minds, we knew that we were prepping our people for, the worst of the worst and also getting them better. So after that, like I said, the greatest day. We went out to lunch. We were having some food. We went back to the PD. We got an awesome workout in. Next thing you know, we're there for our shift that was starting at 3:00. So, still there with some of my best friends. Sitting in our roll call room, and that was the start of the shift. Completely normal day. Right after that, we were out there shagging calls, going around the city, and I look back on it today, and it took me a little while to kind of remember the calls that I went to, throughout the beginning of my shift, because I ultimately completely forgot all of them. And they were fairly simple calls too. Some neighbor disputes and some arguments over, property between brothers and sisters, like little things that, you do every single day as a police officer, and you never think anything of it. And a little while later, I ended up on a call where I had to make an arrest for a warrant. I ended up finalizing, I was finalizing that arrest when I remember hearing it come over the radio of a bar fight at one of the bars in our city. That ended up coming over the radio, and I was thinking to myself, okay, simple bar fight, right? Nothing crazy. And as that came over the radio, I'll kind of break the city down into two here. So we have what you could consider our north side of the city and our south side. My guys and my group, so C group second shift, we were on the north side of the city. The bar fight was on the south side of the city. What ends up happening is the north side of the city goes in later than the south side of the city. So at the end of our shift, the south side of the city, they leave, right? We're kind of covering, that little buffer zone of the entire city for just a short period of time before the midnight shift early side or south side of the city comes in. So that bar fight was in the south side of the city. So my guys shouldn't have been involved whatsoever. Just so happens to be one of my best friends, Jake Pollock. He has the dog Hero right now, Belgian Malinois, and he's killing it with her. She's incredible. He's kind of one of those go-getters, but he just so happened to be going to get gas at the time, which is a full 100 yards away from this bar. So he's just about crossing, just passing over this bar as he's going to go get gas. So of course, right, he's in the area. He hears it come over the radio. He decides, okay, I'm going to get involved. I'm still a police officer. Sure, I'm on the other side of the city, but still wear the patch and the badge. So Jake just so happens to be there. What ends up happening is the vehicle that was involved in the incident, we didn't really know who, was leaving the scene. And Jake so happened to see who, the people driving away. So Jake ended up initiating a motor vehicle stop on that vehicle. That kind of turned into a lot of body cam that got put out to the public, because the vehicle had two occupants. The driver, who I call the brother, I don't use their names whatsoever, and for good reason. And then the passenger, who is the individual that we're ultimately talking about. That car stop ended up turning into the investigation for the bar fight, and then also, some other issues with the driver and not having a license and things like that. So, little while later, they ended up dealing with the whole situation. Nobody wanted to pursue any charges or anything like that. They ended up kicking everyone loose. But during that car stop, the passenger, right, that individual, was extremely irate, was making a complete scene in the neighborhood that they got stopped in, and ended up getting a ticket for it. He ended up using a lot of profanity, throwing the ticket on the ground, kind of egging on the officers that were there. but not making any threats or anything like that that could have, raised any suspicion that he was going to do something at some point. So what ended up happening was mom came to go pick up the two brothers, and the individual who was in the passenger seat chose not to get in the car. So at that point, our officers, they leave the scene. They have no further business there, and that's the next hour of just nothing over the radio and just, in my mind, complete silence. So I ended up finishing my arrest that I had, and as I went to go leave the station, I ended up, I believe, parking in a parking lot for a short period of time, and we get the call over the radio right as our south side of the city were going in to go and leave for the night. So we ended up getting the call for a routine domestic between two brothers. And it just so happened to be the two brothers that our guys dealt with just a short while prior with that bar fight and motor vehicle stop. And the way that our dispatch put it over the radio was any simple, routine domestic that you would go to between two brothers. Just a simple argument. They said that there were no threats of violence. There was no physical violence, no weapons involved, nothing. That we just needed to come and handle the situation. So what our dispatch ends up doing is they end up calling car 5 and car 6. I was car 5, just where my zone was located. It was directly next door to the south side of the city where the call was taking place. So I was the primary officer on the call, and Alex Hamsey was backing me up. As we start driving over there, our dispatch, they end up calling me over to our secondary channel just for some information. They call me over, I switch over, and I listen to them. And it's something that beats me up every single day. I think about it. They ended up telling me, hey, just to let you know, one of the individuals involved has 17 registered firearms. Being a normal police officer, it didn't faze me whatsoever. I was just thinking, okay, well, if someone were to run me, run another police officer, anything like that, you're going to get a lot of firearms registered to them as well. That doesn't mean that they're going to go out and commit a heinous crime. So I ended up making a comment over the radio, and it beats me up every single day. And I said to our dispatchers, I said, oh, great. Just being sarcastic, just thinking it's 10:40 at night. I'm done with my shift at 11, and now you're telling me that I'm going to a routine domestic where one individual has 17 registered firearms, where I'm thinking I might have to arrest this individual and I might have to find all of these guns. That's what I'm thinking. As I'm starting to pull up to Redstone Hill Road, which is where the house is located, I'm going south on Birch Street. I end up making the right turn, so I'm going westbound on Redstone Hill Road. Right as I pull onto the street, I see two sets of headlights on the south side of the street going eastbound. I see two sets of headlights turn off. And right as I'm looking at it, I see, okay, that's Alex, his car. And then I also saw right behind it was Dustin DeMonte, my sergeant. And I'm thinking to myself, what a weird thing. All three of us pull up to this at the same exact time. And we all shut our headlights off just about at the same exact time. And I'm on one side of the street, east of the house. They're on the other side of the street, west of the house. We were parked perfectly away from the subject's house. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, wow, that couldn't have turned out any better. And we all end up getting out of the cars. We start walking to the house. We all got to the driveway at the same exact time. Alex was in front of us, and I was right next to Dustin. And we start walking up to the house, and Alex is in front, and he has his flashlight out, and he kind of scans across the neighbor's yard, which I never thought anything of it. He scanned across the neighbor's yard, and he ends up with his flashlight pointing right at the house, which I'll give you a little explanation. It's a standard Cape style house. On the left side of the Cape, there is a little breezeway where there's a door on the inside of the breezeway. And then to the left of the breezeway, there is a tiny one-car garage. So as we're walking up the driveway, he shines his flashlight to the garage and he throws both of his hands up in the air. And I look around him and I see that his flashlight is pointed at a shotgun that's leaning up against the garage. That is probably the only time in my entire career, at that time 4 years, where I got the oh shit moment. Because in my mind, I believed that we just interrupted a brother v. brother murder, that we just interrupted an attempted murder, that we just interrupted some sort of serious domestic between two brothers. That was my number one thought. As Alex, he approached the shotgun, he ends up picking up the shotgun and he goes to rack the shotgun and a shell comes right out of the shotgun. That was kind of my second oh shit moment. That shotgun wasn't just sitting there empty. That someone was planning on using it. As he did that, I kind of just saw out of the corner of my eye, there was a window that was right next to me. I saw kind of like a little shadow or something go past the window. And I'm standing right next to Alex and I'm thinking to myself, because we're both on our SWAT team, like, okay, Alex is in the middle of something. I have to go and block this door. Because if somebody's about to come out of this door, right now we're talking about everyone in my mind has a firearm. So I go and I step in front of Alex and I kind of just I body block him. And I kind of just put my chest to that door. That door pops open and I'm immediately grabbing my handgun. The individual who is, I'll bring it back, the driver of the vehicle that was stopped prior, the brother, is there at the door right at the breezeway.
As active as well as retired police officers, we all know that you can buy gear from a lot of different places, especially online. But I want to remind you of the importance of supporting companies that support law enforcement. And I don't know a company that fits the bill more than Goals. Their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which they do every single day. And they walk the talk by supporting dozens of public safety-focused organizations like Gold Shields. So when you are looking for gear, support our sponsor and go to goals.com. And Goals has done something special for our listeners. Go to goals.com and use the promo code GOLD15 and receive 15% off the next purchase you make. That offer is good until July 31st. Make sure you go to goals.com. Support them any way you can. Use the promo code GOLD15 and get a special 15% off your purchase.
Looking for powerful defense without the mess? Meet Impact, a revolutionary line of chemical irritants designed for law enforcement, military, and personal protection. With no blowback, no cross-contamination, and easy cleanup, Carry Impact delivers unmatched stopping power without the hassle. Whether you're in the field or on the street, safety should never be compromised. Protect yourself with the next generation of defense. Carry Impact, stopping power, redefined. Have you ever wished you could go back in time and see the events that shape the true crime cases that fascinate you? With newspapers.com, it's like having a time machine to the past. Dive into more than 1 billion newspaper pages from 1690 to 2025 and relive the headlines that shocked entire towns. Explore newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond with a simple search. Read the breaking news as it happened, crime scene reports, witness testimonies, and courtroom drama. Explore forgotten clues and see how the media shaped the narrative of infamous cases. But it's not just the major stories. Newspapers.com lets you dig into local mysteries, missing persons reports, and the small-town scandals that history forgot. It's the closest you can get to being there when it all unfolded. So, if you're ready to dig deeper into the crimes that keep you up at night, start your journey today at newspapers.com. Use the code GOLDSHIELDS for an exclusive 20% discount on your subscription.
And I immediately thought to myself, like, okay, if I start screaming at him, he's probably going to panic, you know, and I don't know what just happened. I don't know what we encountered. I don't know if this guy has no idea what we're even there for. So I kind of thought to myself, okay, like, bring your voice down, try to be calm, try to talk to him and see if you could settle this situation without doing anything and just talking. So I'm trying to explain to him just to step out to me. And I'm kind of being stern about it. I'm just telling him, step out to me, show me your hands. And I said it probably 3 times. And he mumbles something about that he needed his phone. And I'm not thinking anything of it at the time. And as he steps just about 1 foot outside of the door, outside of that breezeway door, gunshots go off. And little did I know that the individual, the other brother, the one that was in the passenger seat, who was extremely irate on that car stop, was behind us, shooting at us. What ended up happening was he almost created like a fatal funnel for us, where the house met the garage and the breezeway. It was kind of just a V. And the only way out that we had was through that breezeway. When the gunshots went off, he ended up using an AR at the time, and he ended up shooting off 30 rounds at us. Alex got hit, I got hit, and Dustin got hit, and I didn't know that either one of them got hit because I was in front or in back, if you think of it that way. So all that I felt was just incredible pain, and I'm seeing the flashing and I'm hearing the noise, and it's just echoing in that little V. And I immediately fell down to the ground. It hit me so hard, I thought at the time for a brief second that I got hit by a car. And I fell to the ground. As I was falling, I was pulling my handgun out. And I basically landed on the front steps going to the breezeway. And as those rounds were still going off, I was kind of just on all fours crawling through the breezeway, just trying to get away from whatever was going on behind me because I still didn't really understand. As that was happening, I'll never forget it. I saw Dustin jump completely over me. He ended up jumping over me and he ran through the breezeway. And that's when I was starting to get up in the middle of that breezeway. And when I went to go and take a step off the breezeway, I completely ate it. I fell right on my face and I was not understanding why that just happened. I felt the pain. I heard the noise. I literally thought I got hit by a car. And as I fell to the ground, I'm thinking to myself, those are gunshots. I just got shot. Something's not right. My body hurts. And I started to feel my leg strap because I had my handgun on a slight drop leg with a leg strap. And I started feeling my leg strap slap against my left leg. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not normal. I have all of my gear tightened down. I don't have anything flapping around. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm fairly squared away with my gear. And that's when I knew I got shot in my leg. And it's in real time, just a few seconds. But in my mind, it's 10 minutes of me trying to process what was going on. And as that happened, I remember Dustin running straight back into the backyard of that residence. And I'm thinking to myself, like, He is fine. He's fine. He's running. He's going in the right direction because I don't know where this is coming from. And I thought to myself at the time, okay, Dustin's going that way. I'm going to go and make a right around the side of the house. Because then if we both end up going around the house, right, we could identify where this is coming from. And hopefully we'll end this sooner rather than later. Turns out it was, I guess you could consider a horrible decision. Because I never saw Dustin again after that. So it beats me up, that we ended up splitting up there. It kills me every day. But when I ended up going right, all I was thinking to myself was, I got to figure out what's going on. And I also have to evaluate myself because I don't know if I need to throw a tourniquet on right now. I don't know what I need to do in order to get myself functional. So when I went right around the house, I ended up in the neighbor's kind of front yard, and the individual's residence, like just kind of like his side yard. And I'm behind a tree. And that's when I kind of took a second to evaluate myself, see what was going on, really figure out what was wrong with me, because I knew things were not right. So I ended up pulling out my flashlight. I'm kind of just giving myself a once over. I'm seeing the blood just pour down my leg. And I'm just seeing it all like just collect on my boot. And that's when it really set in. Where I was like, okay, this is really not good. I have to kind of evaluate myself a little bit further. I didn't see any squirting or anything like that. I just saw the blood kind of just rolling down my leg. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, I'm not feeling lightheaded right now. I'm not squirting blood. I'm not in a really bad spot. I know I didn't hit, my femoral artery. I know that I could continue moving on at this point. Another volley of gunshots go off right then and there. Then I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's a rifle, 100%. I know the sound of it. I've shot enough rifles. And all I have on me is a handgun and 3 magazines. So I'm thinking to myself, I need to get back to our cruisers because we have rifles in every single one of our cruisers. I need to get back there. I need to get, the same firepower that he has so that I can combat that threat. As I start moving from the tree to the cruisers, another volley of gunshots go off. As I'm getting to the cruisers, I'm realizing I can't get into these cars. They're not my cars. That's Dustin's car and Alec's car. And I'm thinking to myself, my car is on the complete other side of the road about, 50, 75 yards away. There's no way I'm getting there. So I kind of realized at that moment, I'm shit out of luck. So I ended up working my way up to the front car, so Alice's car. And I'm kind of just holding on to the door handle, just keeping me up. And I'm kind of just looking out towards the house and towards, the roadway and driveway, trying to figure out what just happened, who was shooting at us, where this person is located, because I never ended up seeing him. So as I'm standing there, I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, well, if this happens, I'll do this. If this happens, I'll do this. Next thing you know, I start hearing a weapon system start to function. There's somebody actively trying to, get a weapon system up and running, right? That standard metal on metal contact. And, just constantly, you could think, pulling the charging handle on a rifle and just sending that bolt forward over and over and over again and nothing happening, right? It's like that weird, it's almost like Groundhog Day, just hearing the same thing over and over again and no changes. And I couldn't see where this was coming from. I could only hear it. And I'm thinking to myself, I know exactly what that is. Somebody's trying to get a weapon system up and running, and that's a problem. And as I'm hearing that, I start looking through the bushes in the front of the house that's kind of leading to the driveway. And I see someone behind those bushes. I'm seeing through the bushes, someone there. And as I'm just staring harder, I see that the person's wearing multicam, right? Like a standard multicam. And I'm thinking to myself, and it's all going so incredibly quickly, that our SWAT team's here already. And then I'm thinking, it's been a minute. No one showed up that fast. And then I'm thinking to myself, we don't wear multicam. So then I'm looking at him further and I'm like, that's the guy. That's the guy that's doing all of this. And that's when he kind of turns just slightly and I start seeing him work on that rifle, trying to get that rifle up and running. That's when, if you end up watching my body cam, that's exactly when I pull up, I raise my gun up. As I raise my gun up, like I said, I wasn't able to really see him because of the bush and because of where he was located. And he was kind of just looking down at that rifle. And as I raised my gun up and I kind of just presented on target, he just raised his head up just for that split second. And that's when I just finished off my shot. What I ended up seeing was a very quick sight picture of the top of shoulders to head. And then immediately after I send that one shot, nothing. I start seeing some strobing flashlight in the driveway, kind of behind the bushes. And I'm thinking to myself, he's playing dead. I know I hit him, but there's no way it was that effective. So that's when I start moving from the cruiser. I start moving towards the driveway, and that's when I ended up seeing him laying there in the driveway. And that's the first time that I saw what ended up happening to Alex and Dustin. That moment broke me. Not just because of what I had to do, but because of the fact that I had no idea what truly happened to Alex and Dustin. And right then and there, I'm seeing the aftermath of what I had to do and what he ended up doing to my friends. And within probably seconds, Jake Pollock was right there on scene. And right after that, my group mates, Kevin Monahan, Travis Martin, Paul Groman, they were all there within seconds after that. And I will give, kudos to those guys because the way that they handled everything was absolutely incredible. They absolutely disregarded all safety and just ran into the scene and started doing work. And I look back on it now and I think Jake immediately put himself in harm's way. Travis, Kevin, Paul, they immediately started going in and getting our guys out and working on me and getting everything done that had to get done, and they perfected it in that moment. And I revert that back to the fact that we were in that active shooter training, and it couldn't have been, oddly enough, a perfect time for that training because our guys were completely squared away and they handled it perfectly. Being able to see it kind of from the outside as someone who was no longer really involved, and to be able to see them work and to see them do everything perfectly, it makes me very happy to know that they were, my best friends. They were my backup after that call. And, I will trust them with anything for the rest of my life. And while they showed up on scene and they're doing all that work, they end up moving me from where I was kind of at the end of the driveway. They end up picking me up and they moved me across the driveway behind another car that was another cruiser that pulled up on scene. They dropped me there, and that's when they started realizing, okay, he needs a tourniquet now. Kevin Monahan, he ended up throwing a tourniquet on me. He cranked that thing down. He got it high and tight, which is exactly what you need to do. And he did a phenomenal job. And later on, from my surgeons, I found out the next day, they're like, who put that tourniquet on you? And I was like, I don't know. Because I wasn't going to throw one of my best friends under the bus for screwing something up. And, they were like, well, find him and thank him because he probably saved your life. And, I think about it all the time. Every single time I see him, I just remind myself of the fact that he ultimately saved my life. And nowadays we look at it and it's like, okay, who needs to learn how to utilize a tourniquet? Kevin's going to teach you. So it's, there are a lot of things that we picked up from it. As horrible as it was, there were a lot of things that we learned, over that 5, 10, 15-minute period of work being done. So,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to comment on a couple of things really quickly. I can tell this is not an easy story for you to tell. You lost 2 of your friends and coworkers and peers at the Bristol Police Department in a tragic, incredibly unexpected event that takes place. But you're also very humble about your part in it, and you're very, I'm not going to say critical, but you have regrets. I should have did this. I should have did that. And I just want to tell you, if it means anything, coming from me, and I'm sure Tom will echo this, you handled yourself incredibly bravely, thoroughly professionally, and better than any of us could ever hope to in that circumstance. You have nothing to feel bad about. What happened here was the work of somebody else, of an evil person hell-bent on taking life. You did an incredible job looking out for yourself and for others and trying to stop that threat, which you did. So, I know survival guilt is a real thing. I know it is. Tom and I, we've talked about this with other people and people we've known who passed and stuff. And I just want to say that you did an incredible job. And not that you're going to be proud of yourself. You're going to have a long time, and I know that, of coming to grips with this event because it's a tremendously life-altering event. We know that. And we also so much, again, appreciate you going so personal and sharing this. But anybody out there who was a cop is nodding along right now as I'm talking and saying, hey, Alec, brother, man, I'd buy a steak and a drink anytime and shake your hand and be proud to know you. You did the Bristol Police Department and your friends and partners proud in a horrible situation. So just know that, okay?
yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And, it took me a long time, to be comfortable with myself. As odd as that sounds, right? It's, it's the weirdest thing, and just thinking, even to this day, I think I just did my job. I trained for it. I dry fire to nauseum, and it drives my fiance insane when I end up doing it for hours. But, but I do it for a reason. And there are a lot of guys, especially guys on my team, guys that showed up right after me that are just as good, if not better than I am. Right. And that's what a lot of people, I think, need to understand, right? Is that, you can be capable of just about anything, right? But if you put the time and effort into those things, right, it's, that's what truly matters, right? You're never going to, perform better than your training. Well, you have to put the time and effort in. And, it's, going back to the whole, survivor's guilt thing. It's, that beat me up for a long time. It still kind of does. It's not just going to go away. But there are a lot of things that, over the past 2.5 years I've implemented to, make myself the best version of myself possible, and trying to get through all of those things and work through all of those. And it's a constant battle, it truly is. And that's the thing that a lot of people, you can understand from the outside, but once you're involved in some sort of critical incident like that, the people that truly understand it are the other people that have been involved in those critical incidents, that can look at someone and feel, deep down inside, wow, I feel that pain. I know that pain, and that's, that's where I've, learned the most, is from having those encounters with people that have been involved in horrible incidents, who have had horrible things done to them. And, those are the connections that I've made throughout the country, that really, kind of flips that switch for me. That makes me remember, there are other people out there that are dealing with things like that. There are other people that are, succeeding after dealing with things like that. And it kind of just, it helps me. It just pushes me along, every single day. And it kind of just reminds myself of like, yep, you can do it. Whatever the hurdle is, whatever's in front of you, you can do it, because, these people, they went through the same kind of thing, something very similar, and look at them now. Right. And that's kind of the past 2.5 years, what has kind of encompassed, all of my encounters, all the events that I've been to. It's, that's where I'm like, wow, okay, I can do this, push myself past and, take the positives and negatives from an absolutely horrible incident, and shape myself to be the best version of myself possible.
And, this is a good time just for all three of us to take a breath for a second, and throw some business in the middle of this, so we just catch up and go on the second part of this before I get to my question for you. But we just want everyone to remember and thank our premier sponsor, Goals, Goals.com. They're a big part of our show. We thank them every day for being part of our show. Go to Goals.com, check them out. They're the best equipment, best stuff for law enforcement out there. Their tactical gear is premier. So go to Goals.com, check them out. Our big premier sponsor, and we thank them for that. The other thing, real quick, Cop Line. Need to talk to someone? Don't forget this number, 1-800-267-5463. Need to have a conversation with someone? Reach out to Cop Line. Copline.org, 1-800-267-5463. So, Alec, and anyone out there, and this is directed to everybody out there, I ask you to go watch the body cam footage of this. And there's a reason I'm asking everyone to do that, because of you sitting in front of us right now today, speaking the way you are, and getting through that situation and feeling the way you do right now about what happened. And all of us have been through training that we sit there and go, oh my God, when can I go home? We've all done it. We do it. We did it. I did it for 30 years. Probably every training you went to, you're like, all right, can I go home? We're done. And you have no idea how important it is. You take it for granted. And you coming out the way you did with this and being so tactically sound in what you did and what you had to do. Listen, situations happen, and Dan hit it with you being proud. You should be proud of what you did, because we all get told, if you're out of the fight, you can't help. And you have to take care of yourself. If you're hurt, if you're injured, you got to take care of yourself to stay in the fight. And that's what you did, and you stopped the fight. And if you didn't do that, that could have went on for a really long time, and more guys could have gotten hurt. And you had that training to go, you know what? Let me get out of here, check myself, ID the guy, and stop what was going on. And that, my friends, is absolutely incredible after you watch this body cam footage.
Yeah, I think, I think that training, that week, it definitely kind of prepped us for what we were about to encounter. I don't think it could have been any better. We have in my opinion, we have some of the best trainers in the entire Northeast. We have some guys that go to the Connecticut SWAT Challenge and they win everything. It's pretty comical at the end of the week for the SWAT Challenge to see some of our guys on our team go up there and receive award after award after award. And these are the guys that we all look up to. These are the guys that are training us. These are the guys that have all that knowledge, and they're just passing it down, because, they've been to, some incredible trainings. They have the military experience. They have the shooting experience, and that's what a lot of people need to understand, right? It's like if you take bits and pieces from people along the way, you take one thing from every single class that you go to, you're going to be that much better, right? But then you have to apply those things after the fact and continue to work on those things as you go on. And one of the big things that we have kind of incorporated into a lot of our trainings have been because of the injuries that I sustained. And I'll kind of dive into that just a little bit. Because the way that the news, the way that the articles were, put out there, I sustained a gunshot wound. And the thing is, it was way deeper than that. I ended up taking one 223 round through the inside of my thigh. It ended up tearing my adductor, and it looped completely around my femur, and it lodged in the front side of my thigh. I took another full 223 round through the outside of my thigh, which went through my holster. And that's something that, we incorporate into our trainings, is the fact that it missed my fingers by about an inch because of the fact that I had my hand on my handgun at the time. So that round went through my holster, and it kind of just exploded into 100 different fragments that just peppered the outside of my thigh. I took another partial round that went through my right hamstring, a partial round that went into my lower left back, a partial round that went in through my ankle and lodged into my ankle joint, and then another partial round that went through my boot and lodged into the bottom of my right foot. And, all of those injuries, combined, we really broke it down after the fact, and we thought, like, okay, well, if this happens to you, what do you do next? How do you continue to stay in the fight? How do you continue to, accomplish the goal while now you're not having the use of your right hand, not having the use of your right leg, whatever the case may be, and we've incorporated that into a lot of our trainings. And it's, okay, how do you get your handgun out of your holster, with your left hand? And then how do you use that and actually apply your right hand, as that support hand at the time, So there are a lot of things that have come out of it, and like I said, our awesome trainers, our awesome instructors, they've picked all of those things apart, and they've implemented them into not only our trainings for our PD, but the recruit trainings for the academies, any regional trainings, any courses that we go through. They throw those things in there in order to get people better, right? Because if you see things that happen in real life, you're not applying those to the trainings. If you're not prepping for the unthinkable, right, you're behind. And that's the unfortunate reality behind it, right? So, that's why, some of those guys, they're the best of the best, and I will say that every single day for the rest of my life. It's the reason why I'm here is because of them.
Patriot is a premium whiskey hard seltzer. We've carefully crafted 4 flavors that not only taste exceptional, but can be enjoyed on any occasion, anytime. We're committed to giving back 5% of all profits to the core groups we call the backbone of America. We are proud to help those who serve our great country. This is America's Seltzer, the brand that stands for quality, community, and the American spirit.
When it comes to the safety of law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel, every moment counts, especially in the dark. Streamlight provides the reliable, high-performance lighting solutions that these heroes trust in the most dangerous situations, whether it's a car stop, navigating dark alleyways, or exploring abandoned buildings. With Streamlight by their side, our heroes can tackle challenges with confidence, knowing they have the power of advanced lighting technology to guide them. From the first responders on the front lines to the law enforcement officers ensuring our safety, Streamlight is there to make every mission a little easier and much safer. Join us in supporting those who protect us. Visit streamlight.com to discover how you can be part of the team keeping our heroes safe. Because when they shine, we all shine.
Wow. And now your department is lucky to have you acting in that capacity right now, sharing what you learned, not from just this night, but from the entirety of your career. You pick up something all the time, right? You mentioned something earlier. You said a routine, or just another routine domestic call. I think anybody who's ever been a cop long enough realizes there is no such thing as a routine domestic call, because they can go from 0 to 100 in a second. And that's what happened in your case. And I'm just glad for the men and women of your department that are serving now and yet to serve, that they get the benefit of sitting and listening to you speak so passionately and so clearly. And hey, this is real. This is important. This is important. There's a reason why we tell you to shoot weak hand unsupported, 20 rounds from the 15-yard. Well, why am I doing this? I'm never going to use this. Well, you might. You just might, and it could save your life. So I'm glad you're serving in that capacity, because it's so needed. So needed. Experienced trainers are needed.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be in our training division. Right when I ended up going back to work, it was about 1 year that I was out of work and having surgeries. I ended up having, over the course of a year and a half, I ended up having 4 separate surgeries, and then 3 times where I was cut open while I was awake pulling bullet fragments out. And right when I got back to work, they immediately assigned me to our training division. And I'm extremely grateful for our chief for doing that, because there wasn't a spot at the time. And he just said, nope, you're going there. Because he knew that's what I wanted. That's where I wanted to be. That's where I kind of just thrive. And he assigned me there and kind of just let me do what I wanted to do. And over the course of the past year and a half, I've gone to a ton of courses, ton of trainings, got a lot of certifications in different areas. I'm extremely grateful for it, because ultimately I look at it as my opportunity to give back, because the reason why I'm here is because of those guys that taught me. Now, if I can take anything from these courses, from my experiences, from that horrible incident, and push that forward to new officers, to recruits, to our department in any way, I'm going to do it. Because the last thing I ever want to see is somebody go through something that I went through, sustaining multiple gunshot wounds, having multiple surgeries, constantly being in pain, dealing with all of those issues. It's the last thing that I want, to see for anyone. Obviously, especially the mental health side of things, right? Dealing with an incident like that, or any critical incident, and having to deal with, not just the mental health side of things, but the physical side of things. I don't want that for anyone. And if I could prevent that in any way, and I know our instructors, our trainers, if they could prevent it in any way, they're going to do it. And they do. They put in insane amounts of hours, in order to get people where they need to be, and that comes also into play with all the stuff that they do prior to prep for the trainings, which a lot of people don't see. We just ran an entire week-long firearms week last week, and the comments that we were getting at the end of the week were amazing. Just hearing people who typically don't like shooting, or that typically don't care that much, and they're saying, "Wow, it was an awesome class. Thanks for that. Wow, that course of fire was great." Or whatever they were saying. And to hear that, it just reiterates the fact that I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to push, the right agenda here. Push the training, push the knowledge transfer, push all those things forward. And ultimately, our guys are doing the right thing, which is great.
That's awesome. The one thing I want to ask you before we get to the last kind of part of our show, tell us a little about Dustin and Alex.
Tahoe. The two of them, geez, probably the nicest human beings that you could possibly imagine. It's easy to say that after a tragedy happens, right? It's easy to say that they were great human beings, that they did all these great things. absolutely not joking. They were the greatest people ever. Dustin as our boss, our sergeant, every single day that we come into our roll call room, he's got a smile on his face. He's treating us, the best that any sergeant has ever done. Backing his guys, being there for his guys, always being there as a backup, like that night. That's just who he was. As a boss who was overseeing, 7, 8 individuals, he was showing up to all the calls. And on top of it, then reading all the reports and doing everything in the background. He was awesome. When it comes down to him with his family, amazing. He was just that dad where you look at him, he's playing with his kids and having an absolutely amazing time. It's something that, in the future I look at and I just pray to God that I'm, the same way. Did you talk about Alex? He's the individual that could just light up an entire room. He could have a conversation with anyone. And when I say anyone, we have been in public and he would start conversations with people and we're like, what are you doing? He was just such an amazing person. He was extremely friendly, extremely loud. He loved his sweets, and we always made fun of him for it. But, it was a kind of just a camaraderie thing between our guys and our group. But like I said, 2 of the most amazing human beings. And, it's like I said, it's easy to lie about that. But when it comes down to the 2 of them, it's the absolute tragedy, that we lost 2 great people like that. And I think that's what affected, not just the families, not just our department, but the entire city so much, because, both of them had, significant impacts in the community. Alex was, born and raised in Bristol, and, he was part of our cadet program. He was involved in all the community events. Dustin was one of our school resource officers, was also part of our cadet program, of involved in our Tip a Cop events, our, Coffee with a Cop, everything that you could think of, these guys were doing it. And that's the example that I want a lot of people to understand, is that that's the type of police officer that you should be. That's the type of human being that you should be. It was just like the 2 of them. And that's why, every single day I have to remind myself, when I start going down a negative path, of being angry about something, being aggravated, I have to remind myself, would the 2 of them have the same thoughts? And it's absolutely not. They would have some sort of positive outcome, some sort of positive thought that would, shift the course of that negative event or anything like that. And, and that's what I want a lot of people to understand is, if you bring that positivity towards, everyday life, it will just make life better, as a whole. And that's who the 2 of them were. And that's why I try to live my life that way. And I know a lot of others in our department do the same.
You just did an amazing job honoring the memory of those 2 men who I would have loved to have met in life, but I plan on meeting in the next life. Alec, you are an exceptional member of law enforcement and a young man in person. In general, I mean, I'm honored to now know you, and I can't thank you enough for letting us get a little peek into what it was like to go through what you went through. We're on your side, man. We always say, once you get to know us from Gold Shields, that's it. You're not getting rid of us, but you're part of a brotherhood across this country and around this world, and that'll never change. We're there for each other when we have to be, and I can't wait to meet you and break bread with you in person. So I just want to thank you for giving us this story and your time today.
Yeah, of course. It's, like I said, it's, the things that we're trying to do now, in order to push, the positive side of law enforcement, or, bring people from any negativity within law enforcement and bring them to the positive side. It's exactly that, right? It's, creating those relationships with people that you normally wouldn't, right? And that brings, sure, we met through the Hall of Fame and because of all of that, and that's how this whole thing started. And I'm extremely grateful for that, right? What we're doing internally within our department is we're doing something that's completely abnormal. And, it's creating outlets for our police officers. One of my best friends, Nick DeFazio, he's one of our detectives. He started a hockey team. And this was right after the incident. It's the Honor Them Hockey Foundation. And it started with one team. They won the championship. Next thing you know, it turned into 2 teams. Next thing you know, it turned into 3 teams. And it's creating that positive outlet for people, right, to get away from the job. And it's not just law enforcement. We have dispatchers, we have firefighters, we have civilians, we have, city public works people that play for us. And it's creating those awesome relationships between people that you might never end up having that conversation, but you have things in common, which is that sport, right? And now, in just about 2 weeks, I started a softball team, which is doing the same exact thing. But the best part here is that out of the 24 people that we have on our roster, 3 play hockey. So now we're, opening this up to a way bigger, group of people that, aren't already doing this. And now we're just, we're bringing more people into this, positive concept of like outlets for, their stressful jobs or their stressful lives. So, that's exactly it, right? It's, we met through horrible circumstances, but I'm extremely grateful to now have this great relationship with you guys. Like I said, I get the awesome texts and, I'm grateful for it. I really am. So, that's what we're really trying to do here. And it's blowing up, which is great.
That's awesome. So, Bristol's a beacon of how things are done and how things can change from a nightmare to positive things going on in your community, and you're part of it. We're a brotherhood. Danny said it, other people outside this profession can't relate to what you just told us for an hour. They can't, and rightfully so, and they shouldn't have to. And we can, and that's why I think it's so important to have those relationships with people and shoot you a text. Hey, Alex, just saying hi, because that's important to all of us when we either get them or receive them, because we understand what's going on and the majority of people don't. And your story is one that should be told more, not because of what happened, but what can come from it. I think is more important than anything. And like you said, the training part and the brotherhood part is certainly important. But what positive energy and positive events can happen from this horrible event? And you're the forefront of it, brother. And thank you for doing that for not just Bristol, but for all of us.
I appreciate that. Like, we've said it before, if you only think about the negative, the negative the negative events, right? Any of the negativity that comes from that, from a tragedy, from, a traumatic event or anything like that, it's, you're not succeeding in life, right? If you just get stuck there, right? You can spin anything into little bits and pieces of positivity. You truly can, right? If somebody passes away, you can bring, the positive events from their life, and you could spin that into your life, and you could, you can try to, build yourself up to be better, right? And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is we're trying to remember and honor, 2 incredible human beings, and build ourselves up to train our people better, to understand what it's like to be a better person, and to get people out when they're dealing with stressful things, and encounter some, some fun things like softball or hockey or whatever the case may be, right? It's, get people out, get them talking, and, maybe that's their life-saving event right there if they're really struggling.
No doubt about it. Outlets are the best thing. Outlets are the best thing when things are going wrong or went wrong, to get things back on track. We've mentioned it a few times, so we have to somewhat end with this. The call you get to get inducted into National Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame was when I got called, an amazing phone call. So tell me about Megan or Adam or whoever called you and let you know about that. And an incredible night. I've been there, it is something. So walk me through that for you.
Yeah. So obviously for me, it's a different experience, right? I got the call because of an absolutely horrific event, right? Something that was beating me down. And obviously at the time, right, shortly after everything happened, I was just in a fog, not understanding who's calling me, who's texting me, what events are coming up, any of those things. And I was just lost. And, getting that phone call, I was completely lost. I was like, why are they calling me? The Hall of Fame? Like, why am I going to be going to the Hall of Fame? And I ended up finding out, like, okay, no, you've been nominated. You've been accepted into the Hall of Fame. There's an event that you're going to be, presented an award at. And I'm sitting there, just sinking into my couch after all these surgeries. And I'm thinking, wow, it's amazing. It was an amazing feeling, but a horrible feeling at the same time, because I would have wanted the two of them there with me. But like I said, it's, being given that opportunity and being given the opportunity to build these awesome relationships is what I'm extremely grateful for. If I never went there, I never would have met, the people that I've met, the connections that I still have, the people that I still talk to. This never would have happened. Oddly enough, I ran into Megan at an officer's funeral here in Connecticut, and I heard someone yelling my name. And I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, a lot of people know who I am. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, the heck is she doing here in Connecticut? And it was pretty funny, because then, we go through the funeral and she ends up texting me later. And, that's just another great connection that I have, where she was just like, great to see you. You look great, and, it was like weird, right? That, you can go across the country and run into somebody that you've met because of, these horrible events, but you've created a positive connection, and hopefully, bring some sort of positivity to the world because of it. Right.
Well, Megan and Adam are exceptional people, and their hearts are really, really in the right place, which is why we respect them and we become friends and close with them as well. This is what the brotherhood is, and Tom and I have been blessed to be able to meet people all over the place, and it's all the same. We all have so much in common without having met before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Well, my friend, this was an incredible story and honor to have you on. It took a lot. I know it did. Dan knows it did, and we can't thank you enough for getting this out there, which is important for the reasons that I stated before. Thank you so very much for joining us today. We're praying for you. We're always, like Dan said, we're a pain in the ass. You ain't getting rid of us now. So if you think you got text messages before, now you get some more. But thank you again very, very much.
I appreciate it, guys. I really do. Like I said, over the past year and a half, respecting my boundaries, respecting me, and, sending those friendly texts out there, it means more than, I could ever express, and that's probably the number one reason why I'm here today talking with you guys, is because, you guys have been respectful. You guys have an awesome podcast going on, and, it all worked out, and I'm so grateful for it. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Tom, take us out, brother, like you do.
So this part of the show, we always pray for our law enforcement officers, for their safety, for their well-being, and for everything that they do tirelessly and endlessly, to give themselves up, to serve, to protect. Please keep them all in your prayers, them, their families, their coworkers, everyone involved. They need our prayers. It's a thankless job, and things can change, like Alec said, in a blink of an eye. please keep them all in your prayers, as well as our military members and victims of crimes out there. Keep them all in your prayers, and we thank God for everyone we have protecting us. Make sure you check us out on TheGoldShieldShow.com is our website, YouTube.com/@GoldShields, and every audio platform you can think of. Please follow us, subscribe to us, hit the bell, all that good stuff that goes along with this great show, so you see and hear stories like Alec's. Alec, thank you so much, very much again. For my partner, Dan Murphy, this is Tom Smith for Gold Shields. Everyone out there, please stay safe. Don't go anywhere. Overtime is on the way, and we'll see everybody soon.
Hey, Gold Shields overtime. What do cops love, Tom?
Overtime, baby.
Yep.
Not just cops, everyone, I think.
Yeah. It's how we made a living, overtime. But, unbelievable interview with an exceptional young man, right?
You know what? His poise, everyone, hey, little side note for everyone out there listening to Overtime now and just listen to the show. That was Alec's first interview since being back to work about that incident. And when he told me that, I didn't know exactly how he was going to hold up. And he was flawless in telling an absolute nightmare story, Dan.
He's got a lot of poise and a lot of courage to be so soon after this event coming to terms with being able to share the story and doing it in a calm, level-headed way, understanding the importance of sharing that story. He is truly, I keep saying the word exceptional. He's an honor to the profession.
Oh, yeah. And everyone out there, again, I said it while we were interviewing him, you have to watch that video. That body cam video will shake you to your core about just what happened, period. But the quickness of it and how fast something can go from, all right, let me handle this call and then go eat, like me and you did a billion times, and then your entire world that night and the future turns around because of some absolute maniac who just decided to, take two cops' lives and tried to take another one.
He was lying in wait for them. He was ambushing them. And if you look at the weapons, the array of weapons that he used during that gunfight, mostly one-sided gunfight because of the element of surprise that he had. If you look at them, it's military grade scary. This is not some guy with a .32 snub nose that decided to poke a couple of rounds at a cop. This is a guy who was loaded for bear and fully intended upon killing, and he did. And
Yeah.
Alec just happened to be there, and you're right. YouTube it. YouTube that video of that body cam of Alec Iurato, and you will be shocked at the unbelievable tidal wave of rounds and insanity that came their way. I don't know how he survived it.
83 rounds were fired by that guy. And think about this. All right. This guy fired 83 rounds, killed two cops, severely wounded Alec. Alec took one shot, took him out. That, let me tell you, and we don't do this, Dan, with me and you in our careers, but I think I just want to throw this out there, and I feel a little weird doing it, but you'll understand. I was in a shooting, and it's the scariest thing in the world not to think about what he went through. And when he started talking about the, survivor's remorse is odd, because I kind of went through that a little bit, because during hours, a cop got shot. And while he was getting, tended to, I ran past him to get one of the perps. And that haunted me forever. Why'd I run past him? So I got what he was saying in the middle of that, but I think about, mine, and then elevate it to a 1,000th degree of what he dealt with and got through is just mind-blowing and amazing and a miracle.
Watch the body cam is all we can say, and you'll see what can happen at any second, any minute of a police officer's career. You can get called to that call with that lunatic who's hell-bent on killing you, period.
Yeah.
And he killed
That's what we wanted to do.
Yep. Two of his partners shot Alec multiple times in the legs and in the lower back. And he has had physical mountains to climb, and he has climbed them. And he's faced it all with courage and bravery and with poise. He is an outstanding example of what the men and women of law enforcement are, can, and should be in this country. And he is just, I can't say enough about him. I can't wait to meet him and shake his hand. He's somebody I look up to.
Yeah, and then you see what he's doing now. You know, he talked about how important his training was, you know, that got him through that. And now he's doing that and taking that rollover of training other cops that can very well end up in that situation tomorrow. And he's taken that responsibility on to train them to get them through it. That's not easy to do, man. Much less just coming back to work is hard enough. But now to put yourself in the role of the responsibility, you know, that's on his mind. I have a responsibility now to make sure these cops don't go through what I went through.
Right. And he shares the story from a position of unbelievable credibility because he's been there, done that, and he knows how important the training is. So if you're a young cop and Alec Iurato comes into the training room, you're listening to somebody who's going to talk to you from personal experience and who's going to help you survive. We were fortunate in the NYPD. I had a lot of trainers, academy instructors and range instructors who had been there, done that. And nothing speaks like that. You know what it's like when somebody points a weapon at you and fires? Well, you have to be there to experience that. And then you need to share it. So he's taking what he's learned and he's going to help prepare others to survive. And that's about as honorable as you can get.
That's a great word, Dan. Honorable. And that sums him up with just the man that he is and what he's doing. Honorable. Great word during this segment to kind of sum this all up.
Outstanding. Alec Iurato, Bristol Police Department, member of the National Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame, deservedly so, and continuing to serve his community and his fellow brothers and sisters in law enforcement. And we salute you, and we can't thank you enough, Alec. God bless in everything that you're doing.
Right. I think I'm going to take it upon myself to make sure he's at the Hall of Fame next year, even if I have to kidnap him. I have. He's not that far from me, so that's not a stretch. But you know what, Dan? We keep getting them and these stories, and they're important stories. It's not just, hey, Dan, let's get this story on or this guest on. It's cool or it's a great story, whatever. It's a story to learn from, and it's a story that people should go, holy crap, this job is dangerous, and these people do it without thinking every single day all around this country.
Yep, and it's a tribute to them individually and collectively as people who have outstanding courage, but also people who step in the face. Courage is standing up in front of complete insanity and being scared, but doing it anyway. And then they recover from it, and they come and they share their story for the good of others. The men and women of law enforcement in this country deserve your thanks. They deserve your respect. That's all they want, and they risk themselves for that. So we highlight these stories because we want people to know there are exceptional people riding around your communities right now, willing to put themselves in harm's way at the drop of a hat. So at least respect them.
Absolutely. And you know what? You don't even know what they did the day before.
Right.
You know, they could have went through something similar to this the day before or last week or whatever. And you're right. It's just respect. It's just we say at the end of the show, just say thank you. Give them a wave. That's it. Because this happens every day. And thankfully we have people like Alec out there.
Absolutely.
Well, another one, buddy.
Yeah. Amazing individual.
Yep. So everyone out there, remember our premier sponsor, Goals, goals.com. Their tactical gear, their equipment, their uniforms, all that top-notch, top-of-the-line, top-tier, whatever you want to say. We're so proud to be part of their world. Goals.com. Don't forget. And youtube.com/@GoldShields, TheGoldShieldShow.com, and every audio channel you can think of. Subscribe, follow, share, comment, all that good stuff. Dan, we got a great bunch of people out there that'll help us get to where we're at.
Absolutely. Our partners, we love them. We love them, and we don't just, if it was, Joe's bail bonds and he wanted to give us all kinds of money, we wouldn't partner with them. We care about who we partner with. It's important to us. But the goals, folks, let me just say something. The more I've gotten to learn about who they are as a company and who the people are that are behind running that show, they are shaping themselves up to be even more than they ever have before in terms of service, in terms of caring about the audience that they serve, making sure that they're meeting the needs and exceeding them of members of law enforcement, private security, anyone who needs any tactical outfitting from goals. They want to make sure that they stand behind their stuff and that they're there for you, which is something you don't see with every company. They don't just look at numbers, they look at quality of how they are servicing their customer base. And I appreciate that and respect them for it. They're a great company.
Great company, great people, understand it, get it, respect what, who they're serving. And that's a big part. So we're proud of that. Everyone out there, please stay safe. Say a prayer for our law enforcement officers out there and military and our victims and everything. Thank you again for a great show. Danny, this is overtime, buddy, coming to an end for this week.
Yep. Put your overtime slip in. Let's see if we can get paid for it this time.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.